Hello and welcome to Board Now's Cult Television Reviews, and on this video I will be reviewing the latest episode of the HBO teen drama Euphoria. It's episode 5 of the first season and it's called Oh Free Bonnie and Clyde. And I'm guessing the Bonnie and Clyde is referring to Maddie and Nate and their troubled relationship, which really is the focus of this episode. I'm not sure where the O3 part comes from, but I'm guessing the Bonnie and Clyde reference is referring to them. So full spoilers by the way, as you guys will know, I was quite down on the last episode. This one is an improvement. I still have some issues and some concerns moving forward, but yeah, this one was better. I felt there was enough good stuff in it to sort of keep me interested. There's really two main plots. I mean, it's the Rule and Jules plot and then the Maddie plot, and Maddie really takes centre stage for this episode. Now because they've been having flashbacks in the last couple, so it's Maddie's turn this time for a flashback. So the episode starts sort of in her sort of childhood, and we get these sort of creepy scenes of her taking part in like these creepy child pageants that are quite big in the States. And we get basically she's sort of taken out of them because this guy is convicted of molesting her, but it's revealed in the voiceover then not only did he not molest Maddie, but he never met her apparently. And I think that kind of sets up part of the theme of this episode, and that is to do with misinformation, lies, or kind of, rumour or information being misconstrued, or just different viewpoints, which becomes a running theme in the episode. But it starts to paint a pattern with Maddie about, how she started to view sex very cynically, sort of early on. And it reveals them when she was 14, she lost her virginity to this guy she met on the beach, and he was like 40. And then it gets into, her early sexual experience with Nate, and it builds this picture of them being very rough. But it's this idea then she kind of still loves him. It's painted as, he bought her flowers every day, and I think it's kind of saying by the very low standards of the guys she'd been with up to that point in her life, then Nate actually wasn't too bad, which is terrifying in itself. But we start seeing the chain of, Nate being very physical in their sexual experiences. And we get Maddie sort of her manipulation in a way. So there's a reference to the film Casino. So they're watching it on TV in one scene, and Maddie is like really inspired by the Sharon Stone character, and she wants the fur coat which Sharon Stone has in the film, and it sort of makes a comment about how Sharon Stone essentially is in control of the De Niro character in the film. And so that's kind of what happens with Nate, and we see Nate buy Maddie the same coat as Sharon Stone in the film. And yeah, so that's sort of seen as love, and it's kind of, this idea of this sort of false idea of feminism, I guess. So there's some alright stuff going on there. But as things transpire, the main bulk of the episode with Maddie is then it sort of comes out about Nate strangling her at the fairground. So Maddie tries to hide it at school, but the principal calls her in and he starts asking around. And although obviously Nate did strangle her, we know this, Maddie defends him and says he didn't, basically. And the principal probes and he starts asking around, and this is when it starts to show these different narratives being put around the school and these different versions of stories. And it also comes up about the pictures on Nate's phone, because Cassie was told this by Maddie at the fairground. So Cassie sort of lets that spread around the school, which Maddie denies it later, says, you must have been high, I never said that, and then threatens her, sort of thing. But the big thing which really puts the heat on Nate is one of the girls being questioned by the principal. She says, well, it all started, he attacked a new girl, referring to Jules. And Jules, to her credit, says that never happened, sort of thing. Now, obviously, there's this thing between Nate and Jules is obviously Nate put the heat on Jules at the end of the last episode. Now, depending on what they're talking about, I'm not sure he did attack her in any case, because I think certainly at the party in the first episode he was very aggressive towards her and shouted at her and embarrassed her, and certainly was aggressive, but I don't unless I'm remembering what happened wrong, I don't think he actually physically harmed Jules in that episode. And then obviously I think he might have grabbed her in the previous episode when he was sort of threatening her, but I'm not sure it went any further than that. In any case, the rumour is spread about. Jules denies it, but Nate still gets heat over it, so it's this interesting thing about obviously there's enough things stacking up against him, I think, is the point. But yeah, it's sort of ironic, the fact then how they actually get him is quite shaky, and yet obviously it's true, he did assault Maddie and he has assaulted her on several occasions. So Maddie doesn't want to press charges, but she's kind of pressured into it by her family, who of course thinks, Nate's a bad seed, the scum of the earth, sort of thing. And we get a bit more with Nate's father, who's called into the school, and again it's playing up this angle of his reputation around town and just how this could ruin it. And at the same time he's trying to conceal his sort of secrets. But he sort of asked Nate point blank about, no, did you do anything? And did you say you did anything? And Nate, denies doing anything. And the father's happy to go along with it. But I mean, basically, even if he didn't believe him, it's what's most convenient, really. And so Nate denies it when he's questioned by the police. Now, I think one of the most interesting things about this plot is the fact that when Nate's being questioned, as I said, he says he didn't do anything, but he sort of confesses that the relationship is unhealthy, but in a way he sort of turns it back on Maddie, because Nate sort of says, I've been told, she's not good for me, sort of thing, but I still love her. And I think what's really interesting is the contrast between what he's saying and what Maddie is saying, and sort of how sincere each one is, because it certainly appears like he's only saying this, as a front sort of thing, as a cover, because he's obviously denying any wrongdoing, and it also makes him sort of look innocent sort of thing if he's claiming he loves her sort of thing. On the other hand, Maddie, and he's kind of in control, he's playing it quite cool, but on the other hand, Maddie's, has a nervous breakdown in the episode, and really, really credit to the actress playing Maddie. She really brings it in this episode. She is so convincing. You really believe the character is over the edge. I think it's obviously she's more centre stage this episode, and she does have some really difficult scenes. But yeah, by contrast, I think Maddie, she's still swept up in Nate. She's still, and that's kind of what the opening sets up, the fact that, even though he abuses her, she still sort of loves him, and she still has this romantic side of him. And again, it might come back to the fact that all the other guys in her life up to that point had been useless. And I mean, obviously you can say Nate's no good and he's really dangerous, but I suppose you're sort of, it's a low bar in a way, so compared to those, maybe certainly in Maddie's mind, Nate is a step up. And I think this is where the Bonnie and Clyde title of the episode sort of comes from. The fact that they're sort of dangerous for each other. Particularly Nate is dangerous for Maddie, and they're wrong for each other. But at the same time, it's all they know, and in a way, no one else is any good for them, and so they have this sort of thing in common, where they're both sort of self-destructive. So as scary as it is, they can't see beyond it. They just see it as they love each other and they have to be together, no matter how wrong it is. But I thought it was interesting, the fact that Nate's kind of playing it cool and kind of, in a way, putting on this front. I wasn't really convinced when he said he loves Maddie despite everything, whereas she's kind of saying the same, but she really means it and she's really broken down. I mean, I'm a bit mixed on that side that we're getting from Maddie, just because I find it a bit offensive and a bit unbelievable that she would still be this much in love with Nate after the way he's treated her. I'm not sure it quite stacks up, but anyway, I mean, I guess from a thematic point of view, it works well enough. And I wasn't quite sure where they left us with the case. I mean, I think it was still maybe ongoing, or maybe it was just sort of dropped because they didn't have enough evidence, or maybe it was just in the process. But we see Maddie really go off the rails, and she's arguing with her parents and screaming. And there's sort of an ironic thing with Kat and the reversal in their sort of kind of power dynamic, where Kat, after the fairground and everything, is suddenly, she's even more confident, and she hooks up with this other guy. And Maddie, obviously all distraught, she actually calls Kat and asks her, I really need you, please come. And Kat says, sorry, I can't, I'm with this guy, basically. So we see the reversal where it's Maddie now who really needs Kat. She's at her lowest ebb, and Kat is sort of fobbing her off, to be with this other guy, and being really shallow, basically. And it gets to a desperate point with Maddie, but and the episode ends. I mean, it's going around all the characters, but Nate does actually send her a text, says, "Meet me at a hotel." And they meet and they sort of hug. Because I think Nate's been advised not to contact her, which probably would be standard practice anyway, considering the ongoing case. But I think, yeah, that's pressure from his dad. So that's kind of the end of the episode. So I think it's certainly suggesting that they are in love, Nate and Maddie, and it's a two-way thing. Nate, and that's. I mean, it depends where they go with it from here, but I'm a bit put off by that. I'm not totally convinced. I think it's a bit, and obviously it's meant to be disturbing, but maybe it's a bit much to think that she would still love him after the way he's acted towards her. And I don't know if I buy it from him than he loves her. I guess in a way I buy it more from her side just because of her. I don't know, just because obviously probably out of the two she is the slightly more real sort of sincere sort of character. I mean, they both had troubled backgrounds. But I think this is part of the problem with the series at the moment, is then we're just getting everyone with this sort of troubled background, and everyone's isolated, everyone's had extreme experiences with sex. So I think it is just sort of blurring together where you need a few more characters that are have had different experiences, and you need a bit more light and dark, let's just say that. But yeah, there's certainly some interesting stuff in this episode with Maddie and Nate, so we'll see where it goes from here. The other main stuff is with Rule and Jules, and I have to say that I did like this stuff because I think it does say some important things about life and about friendship. So Rule is she's really clinging to Jules and really saying, she's a big inspiration of mine in getting clean. And so she opens up at this meeting, and again, Sedana's really great in this scene. She really sells it, just how positive she is in this moment. It's a really good, passionate speech, and you really feel her love for Jules, or certainly her belief that she's in love for Jules. And I think we're seeing then this is starting to make Jules uncomfortable. Now, one scene that really stood out to me was that at one point when Nate is arrested in the school, he's taken through like the wherever they're having lunch, like the cafeteria, and so he passes Jules and Rule at dinner, and there's a glance between Jules and with Nate. And Rule is kind of, sort of pressuring her to tell her about, Nate's dad and her, and does Nate know about what happened, and stuff like that. And I think what's really interesting is because at one point Rule sort of says, well, you could blackmail them, you could get money out of them for you not to tell the secret. And I think what I really like about it is, first of all, it does show still how immature Rule is. But it's a really good character beat for Jules, because she actually does take the higher ground. She says, no, I'm not going to do that. And she sort of walks out, and I think, again, we're seeing it's building up this sort of chain of events that Rule is maybe relying on her too much, or certainly Jules feels that from her side. Um, so I sort of like that, and then I think when we see it from Rule's point of view, we're sort of I think we're seeing that there's still this naivety to her, and that she's still, yeah, she's still developing, and she still has things to learn. I mean, of course they all do because they're the young characters, but I mean, this shows a particularly naive side to Rule. But I think what I really like too is we see obviously her at the meetings. That's Rule. We see her talking to her support. The older guy who had taken an interest, and he's really a sound guy. He's really there for her, and he's because they're talking about Jules, and he's giving her solid advice, really, just saying, there's a good chance you two won't always be together. What happens when you go to college? And I mean, Rule doesn't really want to hear this, but she's still listening, and she's still taking or hopefully she's taking the advice on board. Um, and it's good actually. Then they are showing, then there are solid adults in this show as well, like him. And also we see a scene at dinner with Jules, and I'm assuming it's her father. I wasn't too sure because I can't remember what her father looked like. I think we've only seen him once. I think it was, but if it wasn't, I'm assuming it's some sort of parental, like maybe a counselor or something. But anyway, he was at dinner and they were talking about Rule, and he was quite cool as well. So it's important to get that balance, not saying, oh, these kids are so troubled, be sympathetic, but the adults are all terrible. I mean, you need that balance. So it's good that we're seeing sort of good adults as well. But I think it does say something about friendship, because what also happens is then Rule sends a text to Lexi, and she says to Lexi in the text, sorry, I've not been a great friend recently, but maybe we should go out and hang out sometime. And I think what I like about this is when you think about the advice given to Rule, about the future and how long term her thing with Jules might be. I think on the other hand, you have this long-term friend Lexi, who Rule has sort of discarded recently, but really came through for her and has been supportive. So I think it's that thing in life which is very true, where you do sort of have a fling, or you have, a sort of a big, what feels like a big friendship, but then it doesn't turn out to be long term. And yet on the other hand, you've got people who are always there no matter what, and Lexi is one of those for Rule. So I do like that Lexi is back in the picture, the fact she sent her a text. And I mean, later in the episode, the three of them go roller skating, and so we see that interaction a bit more. But there's sort of an awkward scene with Jules, where she sort of is awkward and sort of leaves. But I think again that's just her issues with Rule. I think she's becoming more uncomfortable with Rule. But yeah, it is nice to see Lexi back in the picture, and I sort of like what it said about friendship, and obviously I'm sort of invested in Rule and Jules, but I thought that was an interesting comment about friendship. And I hope to see, because Lexi, as I said before, is really grounded and is someone who's genuine and has good intentions, in supporting Rule. So I think you need to have those characters to balance things out. But there you have it, that's episode 5. So I was more positive on this one. I still have issues and still question marks moving forward, but certainly enough good stuff in there to keep me watching, as I said. But let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. I do have a lot of TV to sort of catch up with. I'm going to come up with a schedule at some point, but because this is a new show and it's sort of weekly, I will be putting out these reviews weekly. On a side note, film related, I will tell you then the month of October is gonna be pretty manic for horror films and horror reviews on this channel because it is a special month. It's pretty much like Christmas for horror fans, and I will be packing in as many horror reviews, horror watches and horror reviews as possible. So I will have review videos, but also I will have special live streams where I'll be watching horror movies, and hopefully some of you can join me for that in the chat, and many more surprises. So October is gonna be pretty mega, I can promise you that. But thank you very much for listening to this review, and I'll see you guys again soon. Goodbye.